Hey, everybody, and welcome to the breaking down of the EuroLeague slate for 10-13-2020. Supposed to be a 5-game slate, but due to a COVID outbreak on the Zenit team, the game between Zenit and Baskonia has been canceled, so we're down to a 4-game slate now. As we break it down, there's one other game that I think might be in question. There's no Vegas line on it yet, and that's sometimes not a good indication. But before we get too far, just want to remind you that if you go to FSIDFS.com, that our EuroLeague content is free until the end of the month. So with NBA wrapping up and Major League Baseball and the postseason almost wrapping up, if you're looking to play some DFS, especially during the day, it's going to be available to you. So check it out. What I'm going to show you today is the spreadsheet that we use in post. I'm going to show you more of the full spreadsheet. I usually post a more condensed version of it, but it gives you a chance to break down different data, plays, all kinds of information on it. So let's get to the slate. So the first game tips off at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is Czv versus Zelgurz. CZV's coming in at 1-1, and Zelgurz, who was actually on the bottom last year most of the year, is coming in at 2-0. So as you can see here, in the names of the players, here in this column is the team, the people that I project are going to start. You see that these players have started 2 games each, at least this season already for the first 2 games. They split 1-1 here. See a capital R, that means that they're a key role player. They play decent amount of play minutes in the rotation. The smaller R's are people that get like 10 minutes or less, so they're people we're really not targeting. As you look here, this is how DK has listed them. I have them in green here, and that just simply means that they played in their domestic league game they started. Domestic league can be a good indicator sometimes. Sometimes it means absolutely nothing. And we'll get to that as we break down some of the teams, what their natural position is. This is what the plays are, and I'll get that in a little bit. The regular DK steps, a point per game salary, team, opponent. I always like to throw in the line so you can kind of see who's favored in each game, over under. And I go by Bovada, that's where I get my stats. I also like to throw in the pace because a lot of other there's not a lot of sites out there that have optimizers and stuff for EuroLeague, and a lot of times if you look close at it, all it is their DK points per game. But I like to take all the data and go by the pace that they play. And pace is, the more pace and more possessions that a team has, that affects what their average is. It kind of levels the playing field. So if you have a team that's a slower paced team and it's a paced up thing, they're going to have more possessions. They might have more stats. If you have a team that's a juggernaut and they're playing a game that actually Zelgurz, they play like at a really, really slow pace. Last year, they were one of the slowest paces. They actually, their whole motto on defense was to take the air out of the ball. So team's going to have less possessions. So only being the second week of EuroLeague, what I kind of did was I have in this column what their projection is based on the 2 weeks of data and pace. But then I also looked at what their data was for like the 2019-2020 season and helped me come up with a blended projection. So again, it's going to still be a couple more weeks before we're completely accurate on this, but it does give us a good benchmark or starting point. So as we get more weeks into this, I'll stop using data from last season and primarily use data from this season and the pace and everything. And I think, the projections have been okay so far, but the more and more data we get, the closer and closer they're going to be. And it's not just everything is automated. Before I post this, I go through and I look at every single player. I look at, their last 3 games or so. And if I see something that seems too high or too low, I'll manually adjust it just to feel more comfortable about it. So looking at this team, one of the things I really like to do is look at their minute percentage of the players. So here you see a team that it looks like the minutes are pretty much spread out. And if you look at the starters, 17 minutes, 20 minutes. Lezik starts the game, but he only plays 13 minutes, only 6% of the minutes. So he's not one that I would look to probably really play in DFS. And I know we're really looking for starters when it comes to EuroLeague. And I know it's hard sometimes because you don't get the lineups like maybe 5 minutes before lock. So it's kind of good to key in on people who have been routinely starting. But a lot of players for some reason start, but then they only play a couple minutes and then they just sit in the best the rest of the time. And some other players come in off the bench and who don't start. If you look at this, Dowdovic, he's a R because he's a key role player. He comes in and he plays 12% of the minutes, which is the second most on the team. He averages like 24.8 minutes per game, which is really good. So even though he doesn't start, he's a decent play. Now, one thing that if isn't hard enough only getting your lineups like 5 minutes before lock and having to deal with like COVID cases and late scratches and injuries and stuff, this is a double game week also. So we have games on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And these players played in EuroLeague, played games on Thursday and Friday last week. Some of them had domestic games on Saturday or Sunday. So you're looking in like a 10-day period with them having like about 5 games, which for the NBA isn't much. I mean, that happens all the time, especially in the bubble. I mean, this year was like a little bit different, but in a normal season, you see, compression of games, but they're not traveling as much as these teams are moving from like country to country. So the EuroLeague spread out all over Europe. So they could be going from Russian to Germany, back to Russia to play in a league game, then out to Spain to play another EuroLeague game. So you could see some rotation. It's kind of like if you follow soccer, where if a team plays in the Champions League or the UEFA League, and you'll see like a whole different set of players come in and play, or they rotate players just to keep them fresh and keep them productive. So anyways, let's look at the plays here. So as I've said many times before, I really like to try to find players that have about a 2.5x value for a EuroLeague. I know in NBA, like 5x is what you're looking for, like 10x for a GPP, but they're playing 8 less minutes here. As you see this, out of the guys on the roster, usually a 12-man roster, you have 10 to 12 players playing. So like minutes are split up. So it's really rare to see double doubles. I think there's only been 4 this year so far. Let's see the season double doubles. Yes, 4 players have double doubles this season so far. Triple doubles are a unicorn. They're very, very rare just because they don't get the minutes. They don't get the as much play out there. So the stats don't add up. So 2.5x is really the sweet spot that we're looking for. So looking at this team, I really don't understand this, and maybe it's because Zell had to play Kimmich on Saturday. Their game was postponed because Kimmich had so many players that had COVID. So, but CZV could be possibly one of the worst teams in EuroLeague, and Zell has made a lot of improvements. So I know they had one COVID case, Joffrey on their team, but he's back and he's going to be playing. So I don't know, maybe it's a false positive, and I think they only have one other player out. So to me, like for them to be favored to lose by 5 points, even though this is a road game for them, I don't see that. I do understand that it's a 152 total. Like I said, they like to take the air out of the ball, so that doesn't surprise me at all. That that's how much that total is. So not too many people that I really want to focus on here. The Fs are fades for me. If you look at, like, obviously these guys aren't playing, but they just, over the beginning of the season, they're starting out really not scoring too many points. Dadovic, like I said, he's getting a lot of minutes, but he's only come back at like 2.35x. I have him projected at 12.9. So I mean, he could get there, but again, don't like the pace. Marco, again, GPP play. Now, you see I have V's here and they're different colors. If a V is green, I feel that they're a cash play. They're probably a good value. So Simon Vic here, he's a starter. He started domestically in their game. He's come back averaging about 15 DK points with 369 max value, which is really, really good. Even though he's only playing like 8% of the minutes, he's definitely more than a point per, almost at a point per minute DK points. So that's somebody definitely that would, for 42, if you're looking to play like some higher value guys in your lineup, that definitely could fill in as a value play. Now, if I have just an orange V, they're a value play. The price is probably higher. They can still be played in cash. They can play in GPP. They're just good guys if you're looking for some value to fill out your lineup. So again, these guys are fades. Lloyd, he's one that I didn't really know what to do with this week because he broke the slate last week, and I saw like there were a lot of people that played him, and again the total wasn't good, the matchup wasn't good. So for those of you who played him, good job. But he's had two really good games to start out with. I think people saw the first game and thought, he had a good game, and tried him a second game and they're rewarded. I see flashing lights on this one. I don't know if they're like red lights or yellow lights. But I will recommend him as a cash play if he's averaging, even if he only gets like 20 points, that's gonna bring him to, let's see here, if he doesn't get 32, so if he just gets 20 DK points, that's not high, 25 DK points, that's actually going to get him like the 2.5x that he needs, so he doesn't have to have a completely crazy insane game like he did. But again, at only like 10-1, I think it's worth a shot in cash. Hall also, if you want to stack both of them, I can see that. He's actually been solid too. He's averaged over about 3x a game. So I can see him putting up about anywhere 22 to 25 points. So, and he's only 7,800. So those are definitely the ones I'd be focused on here. Doblik, he's become close to value, 4,100. I think I would prefer, I mean, if you need a value guard, I think there's some other good ones out there. He's definitely playable. So I mean, his GPP, same thing with Walden. He's averaging about 3x. Definitely, getting 10% of the minutes, 21 minutes a game. I mean, that's good. That's solid. Might be like a sneaky play, but he's like at 53. He's like, if that's how much you have left, if you have like anywhere like 55 to 53 left and you need one more guy in your lineup, he's a guy to plug in, but definitely not somebody I'm making a priority. So let's switch to Zale and look at the other side of the game. Now Greeno's going to be out, so I have his O for there, and his projection is going to be 0. As I look at this, so Joffrey was out last game with COVID. He's come back with negative tests, so he's clear now. I don't know if it's a false positive or if he had it way before they announced it and then was able to get over it. But he looks like he's going to be starting and ready to go. Don't know if there's any lingering side effects, but Rubit had a really good game last time without him. So if you see that Rubit's starting and Joffrey isn't there for some reason, like maybe they say he's going to return, but something happens, he gets scratched, then I have Rubit as a GPP, but he would definitely be a cash consideration. These two guys don't play much. He's been almost at 3x. Not getting too many minutes. He's only like 5%. So again, that's somebody if you're right around 4,500 who I definitely be able to put in, but not a priority. He's seems like a decent cash play. Like he's like right on the line. See him getting like 17 to 19 points, 7,300. Malinkas, he's actually had a decent season so far. He's averaged 20 DK points. So I see him coming down a little bit. And some of these guards, like some of these, they were playing their last game against a Kimchi team that like was very depleted. I think they only had like 6.5 guys dressed. So like I think some of their stats might be inflated. So I did dial them down a little bit. Walk up, you should be a decent cash play. It's had a little bit of a slow start this season, but I think you can definitely get there. And it looks like they're pretty deep at guard. Like if you really need a real punt, Czv Versus. Now, this guy starts the game, and here's another example of this. But look, he's only playing 6% of the minutes. He only played 13 minutes. So he comes in, and then he disappears. And then you have players like Malinkas and Levekius that come in and then off the bench and play like 20 minutes. So, that's somebody I would consider more. 54 is not a bad deal if he's only gets like 14 points. Like that's all he needs to make value. So, and he's been doing that consistently. He's been up around 20 for the season. So those are the guys to consider from this game. But then again, I'm not really don't think I'm gonna target this game too much, just because like the ways Zale plays, they're a better team this year, but CZV is not a good team and just doesn't look like a DFS gold mine. Okay, on to the next game, where we have Alba Berlin at 0-2 taking on shockingly 0-2 FS, which I just think they've have a little bit of rush. Shane Larkin, at least we don't have to play this game of wondering if Shane Larkin's in or not. He has been ruled out towards the end till the end of October, so that gives us through this week and a couple other weeks to not have to worry about him, because when he's in, then that definitely takes away from Simon and Mikic. But let's actually look at Berlin first here. So Berlin, 5 starters, pretty consistent. They've had some other guys start a couple times. Frontcourt, he started for their domestic game. And if he actually gets to start, like he could be a great cash play. He is leading the team actually in minutes. So whether he starts or he's on the bench, I think he's definitely a great play, especially at 6,700. So I definitely keep my eye on. He's really the only one, even though this team has the highest total. I think FS, this is where they finally come out and just like throttle them. Like Lammers, he's been okay. He's been like right on the cash line. I would list it as a value play. Actually, might consider changing that to a green one. Yeah, because I can definitely see him as playable cash, especially just make sure he starts for that one. But Freeman, he's like 1.7x. Like, no way. These guys barely play. This is one thing that I do not understand. How is Sigma 10-4 when he's averaging less than 1x? Like, he has had a horrible start to the season. If you want to take a shot on him, if you think this is the game, this is where it finally clicks, this is like, because last year he had a decent season. You think he was averaging like 26 DK points a game, but this year, like nothing. Same thing with Giffey. Like he was a decent player too. So it seems like Fanta here is the one that's really getting a lot of the run and taking advantage of it. Guards are pretty deep. Granger started out after come back from the injury. Seems like he's back to his old self. Well over 3x, 5'7", definitely a value play that I'll be looking at. Trouble with the rest of these guards is like they just have too many of them. They're just not in value. If you look at like the minutes, like they're so spread out, like 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. a lot of evenly distribution of the minutes. So Erickson and Silva are good players. Listen with GPP, like if you want to stack this team just because it's a high total, I can see it, but in cash, I really don't feel good about them. As after the first 2 games, they're 0-2. Ephes is a good defensive team. So again, this game is a great total, high total. Like Berlin plays with a high pace. It's actually a pace down for them by almost like one possession. But I just don't know if I really want a lot of these players just because I fear that they are going to get blown out. The Ephes is finally going to come together and that they are going to really shut them down, except for Lammers being a good value, and Simone, if he starts, is definitely somebody to be looking to play. So speaking of Ephes, so again, Mikic kind of let us down last time, but he's definitely, if he can get his shot to start falling, like he could definitely be the top guard on the slate. Do I want to play 12-6 for him in cash? I'm not sure. I think I'd rather take a more chance with Simon, who had the hot hand at 99. Like Simon last year, there were times where he was like won me a lot of money, and there's times where he like frustrated the living daylights out of me. Babios, who we affectionately call Boob, he is actually a role player off the bench, kind of like if you're watching the NBA playoffs, how Rajon Rondo comes in, or Lou Williams comes in, just that spark off the bench. He's just, he's getting a big share of minutes. He's fourth on the team as a bench player, so definitely he started domestically. So definitely somebody that I don't mind plugging in my lineups. The 7-6 is more than I'd like to play for a value play, but he has shown that he can get to value most games, so someone to consider. The front line is just an absolute mess. If you look at the minute distribution, besides Mormon, and Mormon can have a good game, Mormon can have a terrible game. For this season, he's almost at value, so 72. Like first week he was great. I played him last week. He did absolutely nothing. So GPP, if you like the matchup, the pace up, definitely things are pointing in the right direction for him. But I'm not sure that I really want to play him this week. Dunstan, Singleton, Anderson, all the rest of these guys, they just like all blend into a big puddle of mud. I really don't like playing any of them at this point. If there's some injuries, if we see there's going to be some rotation, if we get a clear picture on these double game weeks of like who comes in and who's not in, that might help. Like Sandley last year was like outstanding when Please was injured, and like they're depleted in the front court. Like he's a tall player. He's very good defense, like getting rebounds and stuff. Kind of like Bobek on the Mavericks, but a lot thinner. He's not like a huge giant of a man. He's like a pretty tall, lanky guy. But again, he's one that definitely can clear up on the boards and definitely can accumulate a lot of points in just a few minutes, and usually with his low salary. But again, I'd look for him only if for some reason he's starting. You see like Police is out. So pretty much the rest of his team is a fade. Bulbe, he's a really good player, but he just really hasn't put it together this year. He's not getting the minutes. So, okay, next game up. And this is a game that I'm afraid might not play. There's no Vegas line for it, like I said. It's Asphalt and Panothecos. So, Hayes, Cole, and Lecombe all have COVID, and they will be out for the game. So, even though this scares me, if we do see this game is playing, this is a gold mine for DFS because Diot, there's very few guards left. So you only have 5 guards on the team, and 2 of them are gone. And so I think, at 46, if Diot's going to start, I mean, he just needs, if he gets like 15 points, that's like 3x. Like if he gets 26 points, that could be like 5x. I mean, that could almost 6x. I mean, it could be an astronomical slate breaker. He's a good player. But who's even more is Freeman. Like, Freeman had an awesome season last year. Now, I do believe he played in a different league, and I think he averaged almost like 30 DK points if he was playing in EuroLeague. But then again, that league he was playing in last year was against like farmers and shepherds. So again, the competition wasn't this up to this level, but I'm excited. That's why if you see a blue V, that means that, if you see them starting, that there's somebody that you definitely want to consider. So whoever gets to start at the second guard there, now that both of them are out, because I'm almost positive that Diat will start, they might go with Amara's is most indications point to he being the one, but really hasn't played that much this year. Freeman's getting the second, actually the most out of the guards, because like their minutes are zeroed out because they're not playing, so they're not factored in. So basically how I have the spreadsheet set up is if I know that somebody's out, then it's going to take out their stats and it's going to figure out what the usage left is, and it's going to apply it to the guards that are left or the forwards that are left, and it will increase their projection. And it's pretty cool how you can figure out if somebody's absent from a lineup and how much production that they usually put into a game, and then spread it out against the guys who you think will be taking it. So I definitely, if this game plays, want to look at Frontcourt 2, Nua and Kludi. Nua's have a really good season so far. That price 62 is great for him. If he starts like 15 points to get value, I think he could be like 4x. So definitely these two as a target. Whitey's a really good player. He just really hasn't come to play that well this year. Even getting the start, he's still not getting the minutes, but put GPP because the potential's there. So having this team shorthanded, and having like Hayes out, I think fall is going to smash. Just make sure you play the right fall, because there's two of them. Make sure it's Mustafa's fall and not the other guy. So check and make sure you have the right fall in your lineup, because that would be very disappointing. So definitely four solid players here if this game plays that I'm very comfortable with, especially, them being down three guys and seeing how their rotation is basically between, if you look at it, between like six guys, because if these guys are probably up in double digits too. The rest of the minutes are not really, guys play a lot, so definitely a team to look at. On the other side of it, Panothecos, they're 1-1 on the season. They have a couple guys out, not COVID related, just injuries. So Bocadiris, and he actually had a start, and Pierre Jackson. So looking at this team, Nadovich has had a decent season to start out with. Foster, if he starts, definitely someone that I want to look at. So Pierre Jackson out. I'm not sure who's going to start, if it's going to be St. Rue who started last game, or Foster. But if it's Foster, then he's definitely somebody I'm looking at. He's averaging over 3x, 10% of their minutes. So that's definitely a play there. The rest of the forwards, G-Pop and K-Mit, they're GPP plays. There's been times where they've gotten there. There's other times when they don't. Like, they're usually closer. There's like maybe 2.3, 2.4x. So they're not ones. They have a floor, so they're safer, but they don't have a huge ceiling. And they're not super inconsistent, but they're not super consistent. So they're like vanilla ice cream. Papa Protrude, Ionis, he's the one that I like. He's solid. I just play him quite often in cash. Get you anywhere. Usually hits value. Can get up to like 3x. Very good player. in multiple categories. Let's see here. Highlight his line. As you can see, we give you so highest amount of minutes per game, highest 14 points per game, can hit some threes, get some rebounds, assists, steals, no blocks. Again, no triple or doubles. Turnovers, is highest on the team, but with the most minutes, if he's handling the ball a lot, that kind of makes sense. So not a complete killer there. So definitely some options, and hopefully this game plays. So like I said, there's a lot of good plays in it. Well, the final game of the slate is shocking 2-0 Valencia taking on Spanish rival Barcelona. So, and it's only supposed to be a 2-point game because Barcelona is 1-1 to start the season. They've been struggling a little bit. And they had COVID also, but it was more affected the coaching staff. And they said one player, but I didn't see anybody identified or anybody out for that. So Sastre, I believe, hurt his knee, so he's out for them. He was out last round. They did play a domestic game. As you can see, most of the normal starters played. It's hard because with domestic games, sometimes you see rotation, especially with the Turkish teams. When they play, there's some nations that have rules for their domestic league that you can only have like a handful of players. Like if you watch like KBO, like Korean baseball, that they can only have, I think it's like 3 non-Korean players on their team. And it's the same way in some of these basketball leagues. So they're going to primarily play the people from their country, or and a lot of the EuroLeague is like such stiff competition that they want to save their best of the best for that. But they could get away with playing their like B team or C team sometime in their league games and just like can blow out their opponents. So again, can't really read into it. Sometimes like later in the season, if I see somebody doesn't play, then I'm going to dig deeper and make sure it's not an injury or something that happened there. But most of the times it's just rest, or you don't see some of the bigger stars that are like you'll never see Shane Larkin play in any of the Turkey League games because they usually rest him. But looking at here, you got some super good cash options like Dubovic. Could have got in foul trouble in the first game, so he was a dud, kind of hurt us. But he came back the next game and he had a really good game. I see again, even though that usually the Spanish front courts are pretty strong. I can see him having a good game. Definitely get like, yeah, I'm at like 26 DK points. That's 2.7x. So Williams had a good first game, dud last game, starting to be inconsistent again. So GPP. Fernando San Marino, he's averaged almost 3.5x this season so far. But he's only played one game and only had like 8% of the minutes. So when he did come out, he played a lot. So if you see him starting, he's a GPP dart. Like I couldn't put, even though like the numbers might merit him getting like a green cash value play at 5.2, it's a little high. And again, I think it's more of a GPP there. Labier, very good player, real basketball, but inconsistent for DFS. Toby, GPP, he's almost at the 2.5x mark where we'd like to be. But when I look at him, he usually does good if like Dublik gets into foul trouble, which he might against this front court. So definitely someone you could throw in a GPP. Price getting a little high though, 8-1 for a backup. I just rather have him starting, but you know, someone, if that's how much you have left in that area and there's nobody else that will fit in your lineup, then go for it. Clinic, he's borderline cash. I gave him the nod just because he has hit like the first 2 games of the season, but he's one that's like not, his ceiling's very low. He's got the floor. He's solid. He'll do what he needs to do, and he'll just get you there, but he won't get you a lot more. Vivas, again, GPP value play. probably get value. Doesn't need much at 47. I like it better if he starts, but if he doesn't, then I'm probably going to fade him. Prepperlick, I really like him. I think I'm going to play a lot of him, especially at 5.2. He's been steady, averaging over 3x a game. If he gets 13 points, that's still like he only needs like 11 or 12 to get value. I definitely can see that happening. The problem with this like backcourt is just like so many players. Like Hermanson, he was a great player. I believe he was on Berlin last year, but he just hasn't really put anything together yet this year. Sam Rosslin, like he's got the talent to do it. And if any of like the rest of these guys, like if Markovic gets back in or Column, like DK doesn't even have him on the slate, but he's still on the roster and haven't seen anything happen to him. So just backcourt like last year was like revolving door. There'd be a guy that would go off and get like 40 DK points, and the rest of them all would have like 5, and you could never really pin down who it was. So right now, just like with the minute wise, having like 20 a game, like third most on the team, like Prepper, like seems like he's the best bet. Okay, finally we go to Barcelona. Again, I still think some of the coaching staff is out with COVID. Kyle Kirk, I think he had a head injury. Said that he might be ready to play, but even if he does come back, he's really not a factor. Barcelona is still trying to put it together. Calathes last year was like probably like every slate you were deciding where you're going to play him or Mike James or Czv or some of the other like Larkin like high price guards. But this year, like he just has come out and he's been below 2x. It's like 20 points a game, and when you're paying over 10K, you got to get like into the 30s. Like I was full fade on him like last slate, warned everybody, and hopefully most people listen. Like, and he hasn't produced, so I still have him listed in GPP because he does have the talent. So if you want to throw like one lineup in and throw some darts, like he's definitely can do it. Same thing with Higgins too. They're really good basketball players. They just haven't played really good basketball DFS wise yet this season. And the other thing too is if you look, like the minutes are really spread out here. I mean, there are some guys in double digits, but everybody else just kind of just blends into the mud. So Mirotic is the highest price player on the slate at 13.8. I mean, that is so high. He's raw points. Like I don't know if he will get the 2.5 value because even at 33 points he isn't there, but he could be the highest scoring player on the slate. So definitely someone to consider in your cash lineups, but I don't think he's a must. I think there's some other forwards out there that I like that are a little bit lower, help you make a little bit more of a balanced lineup. I'd actually kind of prefer to pay up for guards on this slate, but Abrams, he's definitely one that I consider in cash. 76, been solid, almost 3x. If he's starting, then definitely something I'm going to lock in there, and at that price, it's great. Davies, he gets close to the value, so like he's one to consider if you're doing like a Barcelona stack or stacking this game. If you want to throw Calathes, Higgins, and like Davies in with Abrams and Mirotic, and then like take one off in another game, definitely worth it. And the total's decent in this game. They're our favorite to win. I think, starting out 1-1, they're a little bit fresher because of like COVID. They haven't had any domestic games. So someone to look at. So hope that helps. We'll see we've got a game Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week. So I don't know how many videos I'll be able to get out. It all depends on when DK gets the pricing up and, work schedule and everything to be able to see a chance to break everything down. But if we do not have videos, then you can go to fsidfs.com And if I don't have a video up, we always have the chart. Like I said, the spreadsheet here, I break it down. It's sortable, so you can sort it by like team. You can sort it by like the different plays, and whether you just want all cash plays, all GP2P plays, sorted by like minute per game, by projection. There's like so many different things that you can do with it. So hopefully that helps you out. And sometimes, also throw some game notes in there too. But probably the best thing to do is join our Discord. We get a core there. We'll give you at least 3 players that we think are solid for each slate, and then some suggestions for some fill-ins for like the high price studs or some value plays, as well as answer any questions that you might have. So appreciate it if you like this video. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, that would be awesome too. Bringing you this free content. That's, if you just want to say thank you, that's one of the best ways you can do that. And also, if you've got some buddies or friends that are into DFS, have them check out our videos here on cover all kinds of different sports, from the mainline ones to different niche ones. So definitely go and check us out, and give us a like, and subscribe to the channel. And hopefully you'll see some green screens.